Welcome, brave listener, to Careful TV. I'm truly grateful you're here, whether you're tuning in during the day or late at night. Thank you for choosing to spend your time with me. If you enjoyed these stories, please like the video and subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel grow and means more than you know.
I'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from, what brought you here, or even what kind of story you'd like to hear next. Your support keeps this channel going, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Now, let's get into today's horror story. When I first moved to Portland, I was crashing on a friend's pull-out couch while trying to get on my feet. It wasn't ideal. Her apartment was tiny, and I felt like I was constantly in the way, but I was lucky to have somewhere to land. I spent every night scrolling Craigslist with a mix of desperation and hope, looking for something cheap, clean, and not sketchy, which in that city somehow felt like asking for too much. But that's when my friend Jamie forwarded a listing. She found private room or bath in SC Portland for female roommate $450, all included. That price made my heart skip. The pictures showed this cute little craftsman bungalow with a fenced-in yard, tall windows and what looked like a garden in the back. For a unicorn at that price, the bedroom even had its own bathroom. I'm Andrea, 22 at the time, and I was working 2 part-time jobs, one at a bookstore and another at a bakery. I was trying to save enough to move out of my friend's living room. I emailed the contact and received a reply that same night. The guy, Curtis, said he lived there with one other roommate, but she was moving out. He was selective about who moved in, but said I sounded grounded and friendly based on my message. That should have tipped me off still. I biked over to check it out. The next afternoon, the place really was cute from the outside, neatly painted with wind chimes on the porch and flower beds full of late-season tulips. There was a for sale sign leaning against the porch, half covered by a tarp, like they'd changed their minds. Halfway through moving, Curtis answered the door barefoot and smiling. He looked to be in his late 40s. Why rebuild wearing loose linen pants and a beaded necklace? The kind of guy who probably made his own kombucha and said vibes unironically. I figured Portland attracts all types. He waved me inside and told me to leave my shoes by the door. The place smelled faintly like incense and something savory, maybe lentils or curry. There were lots of low lights, tapestries, a piano in the corner that looked untouched, and stacks of National Geographic magazines arranged too neatly. Another guy sat on the couch, scrolling on his phone. He looked younger, probably late 20s, with scruffy hair and an oversized hoodie. He didn't say anything when I walked in, just looked up, made brief eye contact, then went back to his screen. Curtis offered me a glass of water and launched into a little tour. He talked a lot, like the kind of person who's used to filling silence. The kitchen was open and airy, and the hallway led to 3 bedrooms. His, the smaller guest room, and the master suite, which was the one available. He mentioned that he and the other guy, Paul, used the 2 smaller rooms and I'd have the largest one. It's kind of the heart of the house, he said, his voice dropping slightly, as if attempting profundity. The room itself was, I won't lie, surprisingly spacious. A massive, dark wood bed, reminiscent of war posters with its heavy beams and faded quilt, dominated the center. It seemed completely out of place with the rest of the house. The bathroom attached to it had one of those wide walk-in showers with 3 shower heads. We remodeled it for our last roommate. Curtis said she liked options. I laughed politely, but I felt a weird tightness in my chest. Something about the way he said it. I tried to picture my books on the shelf, maybe my desk near the window, but that massive bed threw everything off. It dominated the space. I asked if it came with the room, and he smiled, like I'd asked a joke. "Oh yeah," he said. "It's part of the house bolted down. You'll love it once you sleep in it." It's grounding, that word again. Then he went on to explain that it had special bedding that I wouldn't need to worry about replacing because it came with weekly sheet changes included. I asked if there was a cleaning service or something, and he said no. He handled it. "Helps me stay connected with the energy of the space," he added. That was when I started eyeing the door. Curtis must have seen my expression because he quickly shifted gears, walking me back toward the living room. Paul was still on the couch watching us, like he wasn't really watching. Curtis leaned against the kitchen island and casually mentioned that, while I could absolutely have friends over, they'd prefer it if I mostly invited women. "The energy shifts too much when men are around," he said, stirring his tea. "It throws off the balance of the space." I nodded slowly, not sure what to say. Then came the kicker. Curtis told me about their annual retreat. "It's part of being in the house," he said. "Every winter we go up to Mount Hood for a long weekend, just the housemates and whoever they invite. As long as they've been here before and the group vibes are aligned." He kept using that word, vibes. "The free trip, with all expenses covered, is simply a part of the lifestyle here. We ask for your full presence, no phones, to foster authentic connection in a shared space." I hesitated to respond, unsure if this was an invitation to a cult or merely an unusual co-living opportunity. Curtis smiled at my silence and added, "You'd be a great fit. We've been waiting for someone like you. You bring a softness. We need that." I told him I'd think about it and let him know. The second I stepped outside, I texted Jamie. "Nope, nope, nope, we'll explain." Later, I started walking my bike towards the street when I heard Curtis call out behind me, "Just remember, it's not for everyone, but those who get it, and we always have an incredible time." I forced a smile and wave, then biked straight to Jamie's place, where we cracked open beers and I told her everything. We spent the next hour trying to make sense of it. Upon researching the house on Zillow, she discovered it had been sold 5 years prior. Curiously, it was relisted just a few months earlier before being removed from the market. The master bedroom was conspicuously absent from all photos. She speculated that an unsuccessful attempt to sell might have led them to rent instead, but under exceptionally specific conditions. We joked about hidden cameras and weird rituals, but neither of us were really laughing. It didn't feel like a joke. It felt calculated, controlled. That kind of softness in the voice that makes your skin crawl because you know it's not actually soft. All needless to say, I didn't move in. I ended up subletting from one of Jamie's co-workers who was studying abroad for a semester. It wasn't fancy, but it was safe. Then I could sleep without wondering what kind of energy I was being watched for. Craigslist stayed off my radar after that. When I transferred to the University of Colorado, Denver, for my final 2 years, I didn't have a lot of time to set up housing. Campus apartments were full, and I couldn't afford one of the newer high-rises. So I did what a lot of students do. I checked Craigslist. I wasn't thrilled about it, but the idea of a short commute and low rent kept me scrolling. One listing stood out. It was a basement room in a duplex, about 20 minutes from campus. The ad was basic: private room and quiet home, shared kitchen and laundry. Female roommate preferred, rent was well under my budget, and the photos showed a clean carpeted space with a tiny window and neutral furniture.
Nothing flashy, but clean. The woman renting it was named Elise. She responded to my email within the hour and invited me to tour it that weekend. "I'm Lauren.
by the way, 23 at the time. Coming off a messy breakup and just trying to reset, my focus was school and staying out of trouble. Elise seemed friendly in her messages.
Punctual, polite, used full sentences. I figured, if she wasn't a serial killer, that was already a win. She answered the door right on time, wearing a long cardigan and yoga pants, her blonde hair twisted into a tight bun. She was probably in her late 30s though. Her skin looked younger. I remember thinking she had the kind of smile you'd see on a receptionist at a spa wide, but not exactly warm. Our initial encounter felt like a formal interview, as she extended her hand in greeting. The house itself was typical, a 2-story beige dwelling with a slightly unkempt lawn. My rented room, located in the basement, with its own entrance, was modest. It featured a queen bed, a small desk, a dresser, and a single lamp. The only natural light came from a small ground-level square window. It was cold down there, manageable. Elise walked me through the space with an odd mix of formality and personal comments. "You seem very centered," she said, at one point. "I don't like hosting anyone with chaotic energy." That should have been my first warning, but I needed a place, and she didn't ask for a deposit up front, just first month's rent and a signed agreement, which she printed and handed me in a manila folder like she'd done this before. The rules were mostly standard: no loud music, no overnight guest without permission, no smoking inside, but one stuck out, no entry into main floor without prior invitation. I asked if that included the kitchen. "No," she clarified. "There's a small kitchenette downstairs for your use. I keep the upstairs for myself. It keeps the house energetically balanced." I nodded, half listening. The kitchenette was barely functional. A microwave, hot plate, mini fridge. But I figured I could make it work. The first week was fine. Elise mostly stayed upstairs. I'd hear her pacing occasionally, usually at odd hours, 1 or 2 a.m., but she never came downstairs unannounced. We texted once or twice about logistics, like garbage day or laundry schedules, and she always signed off with namaste. Then one night I came home from my night class and found the hallway light off. I always left it on before leaving, so it threw me off. I flipped the switch and nothing happened. I used my phone flashlight and noticed the bulb was missing, just gone. I texted her, "Hey, did the hallway bulb burn out, Elise?" I removed it. The light was interfering with my sleep. "Please use a flashlight when entering after 9 p.m. I reread the message twice. It wasn't a request. It was an expectation. I didn't reply. That same night, I heard her upstairs pacing again, but it wasn't slow like before. It was fast, frantic, back and forth, back and forth. At some point, something heavy dropped. I waited, expecting maybe a thud of her feet running down the stairs, but it never came, just silence. Then the pacing resumed. The next day she left a note in my mailbox, downstairs, folded, handwritten, in blue ink. "Please do not boil water after 10 p.m. The sound travels. No thanks." No smiley face, just rules. I started eating dinner before class and drinking lukewarm tea instead of heating the kettle. It wasn't worth the confrontation. Then came the mirror thing. I had one mirror in the room, a small rectangular one above the dresser. I used it for getting ready, brushing my hair, checking my outfit. One afternoon I came home, and it was tilted, barely, but noticeably. It had been moved. I know that seems small, but when you live alone, even small things feel big. I texted her, "Did someone come into my room today?" She replied, almost immediately. That space was hers, not Elise's. I began locking my door, or at least attempting to. The flimsy knob lock offered little security without a deadbolt, so each night I propped my suitcase against the door for a semblance of comfort. The situation escalated around 3 weeks in. Lying in bed near midnight, engrossed in my phone with headphones on, I heard a soft, rhythmic tapping from the hallway. Not a loud knock, just a gentle tap. I pulled off my headphones and sat up. The tapping stopped. I waited, then walked to the door, heart racing. I didn't open it, but I crouched and peered through the crack at the bottom. A shadow passed across the sliver of light. I backed up fast and texted Elise. Me, is everything okay?
Are you downstairs? No reply.
I waited 10 minutes, staring at the door. Finally, I heard slow, deliberate footsteps going back up the stairs. The next morning, I found a note slipped under my door. Please don't stay up so late. Your light disrupts the energy. No signature this time. That weekend, I brought it up in person. She was watering plants on the front porch, humming to herself. Kept my voice calm. Elise, I wanted to talk about the other night. Someone was outside my door around midnight, and I don't recall being downstairs. She said before I even finished it, "It wasn't you." She smiled, but her eyes didn't. If you're feeling unsettled, you might want to do a cleansing. Sometimes new environments bring up old fears. I didn't say anything. I just stood there. She added, "I left some sage and salt outside your door. Feel free to use it." I nodded slowly and walked back inside. Sure enough, there was a small dish of coarse salt and a stick of sage bundled in string. I tossed them both in the trash. The last night I stayed there was the worst. I woke up at 3:20 a.m. to a scraping noise. It was my suitcase being pushed aside. The door handle turned slowly, creaking open, an inch before I leapt out of bed and slammed it shut. "Alice," I yelled, voice cracking. "What the hell?" No answer. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat against the door with a flashlight in one hand and my phone in the other, ready to call the police. The next morning, I left. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't ask for my rent back. I just packed everything into my car and drove to my cousin's place in Boulder. Later that week, I got a text from Elise. "Elise, I wish you'd stayed. Your presence was balancing. But I understand." I didn't reply. I blocked her number and deleted everything.
I still think about that door sometimes, how easily she pushed it open, how easily things could have gone differently. Craigslist felt cheap at first, but in the end I realized I'd paid far too much.
Back when I lived in Sacramento, I used Craigslist a lot. Furniture, your books, concert tickets, whatever I didn't need anymore, I'd throw up an ad, and usually it was gone by the weekend. I had good luck with it. I'd met dozens of buyers and sellers over the years, and 99% of the time, it was smooth. People came, paid in cash, and left. I'm Kerry, and while I never experienced anything truly bizarre or dramatic, 2 encounters on Craigslist fundamentally altered how I used the platform. This happened when I was in my early 20s, living by myself in a small duplex near Oak Park. It was a neighborhood where security signs were common, yet package theft was still a regular occurrence. Still, it was what I could afford, and I made it work. The first incident happened just before Christmas. I'd gone through my closet and found a big tub of old DVDs and CDs that I hadn't touched in years, mostly random stuff from high school. Britney Spears' Green Day, some weird indie horror films, a couple of scratched up seasons of Friends.
I figured someone might want them, so I bundled everything together and listed them for $25. The ad said mixed DVDs and CDs, mostly 2000 stuff sold as a lot. Don't ask for a list. A guy named Aaron messaged me a few hours later. His email was polite. No weird grammar or red flags. He said he was in the area for work, so just saw my ad and wanted to swing by to grab the discs.
After dinner around 7:30, I gave him my address and told him to shoot me a text before heading over. Of course, 7:30 came and went. No message, no call. Pretty typical. Honestly, Craigslist. No shows aren't surprising. I went on with my night, watched an old episode of Criminal Minds, and eventually passed out on the couch. It was past 2 a.m. when I heard a knock at the door at first. I thought I was dreaming. Then it came again. 2 slow, deliberate knocks. I sat up, heart racing, and peeked out through the tiny peephole. A man stood there facing my door, like he was waiting for a dentist appointment, not at all concerned about the time. He wasn't fidgeting, wasn't even looking around, just standing. I cracked the door slightly, keeping the chain on. "Yeah," he smiled. "Hi, I messaged you about the CDs." I blinked. It's almost 3 in the morning. I know I got caught up, but I'm here now. His tone was weirdly casual, like we'd made plans for this exact moment.
I didn't know what to say. I thought about slamming the door in his face, but part of me wanted him gone, so I grabbed the plastic tub and shoved it through the door. "Crack here. Just take them." He handed me a crumpled 20 and a 5. "Thanks. These are perfect for my girlfriend. Her car got broken into last week and all her CDs were stolen."
She's been so upset.
"Okay," I said, already shutting the door, so good luck.
The story didn't hit me until later. I hadn't listed any specific bands or titles, so how did he know what I had? The text started the next day.
"Hey, cutie, you give great deals. Maybe we can trade something else next time." I ignored it.
5 minutes later, "You from around here? I'm still in town. If you want to show me around, then do you do massages? Asian girls usually know how to take care of stress." I froze. I hadn't mentioned my background in the post, but I have a Filipino last name, so maybe he made a guess still. I replied, "Finally, lose this number." His response, "Come on, don't be like that. I've got cash, babe. I still have your address." My stomach dropped for the next few hours. He kept texting, "I'm at the Star. Bucks near your block, just parked at the Walgreens. You around? Don't ignore me. I know you're home. I'm coming by." I went full lockdown, turned off all the lights, bolted doors, and sat in my bedroom with a kitchen knife I didn't know how to use. I called my landlord, who lived in the unit next door, and told him what was happening. He came over with a bat and stood by the front window. A dark sedan crawled down the street. Not long after he saw it too. The guy was going so slow, like he was looking for a specific house. When he paused in front of mine, my landlord stormed out with the bat raised.
I didn't catch the whole conversation, but it ended with the squeal of tires and taillights vanishing around the bend. I never saw the guy again. After that, I switched to porch pickups. No more in-person meetings. The second incident occurred the next summer, right before I relocated to a new spot in Midtown.
I had to load up everything myself. And since my friends were all either working or out of town, I put up a quick Craigslist gig. Need help loading furniture into a U-Haul. Less than 1 hour, $50 cash. A guy named Jason replied within 10 minutes. Said he had a truck and lived nearby. I gave him my address and a time he showed up on the dot. Jason was a big guy, like heavy enough to make the porch creak every time he shifted his weight. Sweat was already pouring down his face before he even lifted a single box. I handed him a cold bottle of water and explained what needed to be moved. The dresser TV, small desk, a couple of boxes of books. He didn't talk much, just nodded and followed me. As I led the way, every time I turned to grab something, he made it a point to be directly behind me. I'd walk up the stairs and hear him grunt softly, not like struggling. Sounds more like satisfaction. It creeped me out. I started taking 2 boxes at a time, just so I wouldn't have to go up as often. After we were done, I thanked him, handed over the cash, and he left, or so I thought. Maybe half an hour later, I went outside to take a trash bag to the dumpster and saw his truck parked across the street, engine off, windows rolled up, and he was sitting there staring straight ahead. When he saw me notice him, he didn't wave, didn't smile, just turned his head slightly, like acknowledging me was enough. I walked over cautiously and knocked on the window.
You okay? He rolled the window down an inch. Yeah, you need anything? He didn't respond, just stared for a few seconds, then rolled it up and drove off. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Bet you'd look good, tied to that bed of yours. Who is this? You taste like honey, don't you?
My stomach turned. He kept going. I watched you bend over all afternoon. Nice pink panties. Bet they'd look better on my floor. I hadn't seen his number before. He never called before showing up for the job, but now it was unmistakably him. I tried calling Sprint to figure out how to block numbers, but couldn't get through. I turned off my phone and waited until I met up with my friend Daniel for dinner. When I turned it back on, another message was waiting. Still thinking about you. Got some rope in the truck. I showed Daniel. His face went red. Without hesitation, he called the number and calmly told the guy if he ever contacted me again, he'd come find him, and it wouldn't be for a conversation. The messages stopped. I moved the next day. I took a detour on the drive to my new place, just in case I was being followed. I haven't used Craigslist in the same way since now I only meet people at coffee shops or police station parking lots. Public loud and no more private info. I even use a Google Voice number now, just to be safe. It's easy to assume you can identify dangerous individuals, that you'll recognize them instantly. But sometimes they smile, say all the right things, and wait until you're at ease before their true nature emerges. I still use Craigslist sometimes, but I never drop my guard, not anymore.